here in the Charm City, and everyone's excited about it, but nobody more excited than our friend Dennis Colossus, who, of course, hosts the Sunday Sports Voice here on Thursdays from 3 until 5. He'll be getting you ready for the real kickoff, which is the Carolina-Denver game. I said he's probably better than Dirks Bentley and One Republic all put together. He joins us now, and, of course, talking football. It's your time of the year, right, Dennis? I mean, there's a whole bunch of people like you. Every time I talk to you, there's football, and then there's sort of everything else in the sports calendar. So I would say to you, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and happy weekends off here for the next 16, 22 weeks or so, right?
Nothing like it, Nestor. You throw in a dash for college football, some great games. Notre Dame, Texas, double overtime the other night. Great stuff in the sports world this time of the year. College football, NFL football. It doesn't get much better than this.
Now, look, we all see the hard knocks, and we're familiar with that over the last 15 years. And Coach wants to see you with his playbook and all that stuff. The four-set thing was very interesting over the weekend. I was in Germany. I was getting the text and reading Luke's insights, which I thought were incredible. In the hours after that, to say why would this happen? Because the fans were a little like, well, that's a little perplexing that we're going to count on all these running backs who've really never done it before, and some of them who've been given great opportunities and still have never done it before. It was a fascinating play on the weekend, and then the addition of Devin Hester, too. Some surprises over the weekend.
Lots of surprises, lots of intrigue for sure, lots of perplexing moves that you alluded to. The four-set thing was very, very good. I think that Ozzie Newsome took a shot that no one would be interested in a 30-plus-year-old running back. He took a gamble, and it paid off big time. He'll bring him back for half the price. He'll probably still be the starter. A lot of people said Terrence West. I think Terrence West, at least initially, he gets some goal line carries, but four-set's the guy. I mean, Harbaugh earlier in the spring camp said that he's never seen the guy look better. So that was that's why everybody was so shocked that he was cut. I guess they had a nod and a wink deal in place in case nobody picked him up, and that's what happened. They rolled the dice. It came up nice for the Ravens, and they're ready set for the season with a veteran starting running back. The biggest thing about Forsett is his blocking ability. A lot of people overlook that, but he, for his stature, for his size, I mean, he gets his body right in there. Good technique. He's able to stave off rush ends and big linebackers.
The thing I noticed about him 2 years ago was the veteranness, and not that he's a great guy because he is, not because he's well-liked because he is, and not because he's small because he is. I mean, if you stood next to Ray Rice or any of the other more diminutive running backs, they're not all built like Jamal Lewis. The thing with him was the field vision, and I know Luke and I have talked about it. We talked about it on a week-by-week basis 2 years ago. I mean, I would sit up in my seats, look down, see the holes open, see him hit the hole immediately when he needed. He had a sense of timing, a sense of field vision, and a lot of that probably had to do with Gary Kubiak's offense and the way the front line, was working, especially, after the Castillo thing didn't work out so well the first year. 2 years ago, I've never seen a running back, literally, with that kind of vision consistently to know where the flow was going, to know where the hole was going, and to seemingly always maximize a run by going in the right direction and having a sense of timing.
Yeah, no question about it, Nestor. When I watch him run, it seemed like he sees the parade of the field for an open door, where a lot of other running backs see it through a keyhole. He just has, like you said, this amazing, uncanny ability to see the holes as they're starting to open up. And he was well on his way to back-to-back 1,000-yard season. Great guys we mentioned in the locker room. He's a very spiritual man, great presence. I know he's a John Harbaugh favorite, which is why everybody was taken a little bit aback, but all is well and ends well. Great guy to have back on the team, and the Ravens are much better for it.
All right, so going into the Bills game this week, Dennis, some thoughts about what you're concerned about. What has you worried about this team being 6-10 this year?
I think there's just a good vibe about this team, not just because they went 4-0 in the preseason. This team just feels a little bit different. I don't know if it's the infusion of youth. I don't know if it's because they've been relatively healthy compared to the last 3 seasons, but there's something different about this team. And I just don't think it's optimism on my end. I think they've got their stuff together. They'll be ready for the Bills. I think it's a very good opponent. The Bills are nicked up, particularly along the defensive line. I think we're going to catch the Bills at the right time, home opener, and the schedule as well is not as brutal. Last year, 5 out of the first 7 games on the road, Nestor. This year, opening up at home, a very favorable schedule to begin with. I think all these things factor into the Ravens maybe having a shot at finishing 10-6 and getting that sour taste that 5-11 tastes out of our mouths from a year ago.
Yeah, you're one of the dudes in my life that really is a draft nerd. I mean, you're a guy talking about the draft in January and February. I'm going off to the combine. You're always one of the guys throwing me a text to look at a certain player. You want a little bit of information. You love the draft. And over the last 3-4 years, we've seen the Arthur Browns and the Terrence Brooks and all of these names where we sit and glorify these guys throughout April and May and June. We wait for them to come on in August and see them play in these preseason games. Sometimes there's been these injuries, things like the Sergio Kindle issue and the Perryman issue, even going back to the Dan Codys and other guys that could never really get on the field. Then there's the Arthur Browns or the Brooks, or these guys that got cut this weekend that were high draft picks, thought to be high ceiling guys, certainly thought to be high potential guy. And in the case of Brown, I mean, the Ravens played around with him for 3-4 years, waiting for him to come on. It's kind of a dark weekend when you are cutting second and third round draft picks. That's not something we saw a whole lot of here a decade or a decade and a half ago. And it's certainly an admission on the part of the front office that, hey, we missed on these guys. I mean, whether the coaches talked to them in Indianapolis and wanted to draft them, position coaches, Harbaugh, obviously Ozzie and Eric DeCosta, this stuff has come to their desk, and Joe Ortiz. It was kind of a strange weekend bidding adieu to guys that I don't want to say, I mean, in some cases, they never even got on the field to show that they weren't any good.
Well, when you compare the Ravens to some other teams, I take the Kansas City Chiefs that got rid of Dorial Green Beckham, a second-round draft pick from a year ago. If you miss on a player, I think it's refreshing that the Ravens are starting to cut these high draft picks if they made a mistake. There's no point in keeping around for 3 or 4 years or just taking up a roster spot. If the guy doesn't get it by his second year, chances are diminishing that he's going to be any better than year 3 or 4. Now, Matt Elam was starting to get it. That's why he's still on the team, but I think it signals a move in a different direction for the Ravens. And I don't know if it's a meeting of the minds between Steve and Ozzie and Coach Harbaugh, but they're definitely going in a different direction. I think it's great. I think it's a meritocracy. I think every player is given an opportunity to earn a roster spot, and that's the way it should be. You should keep your best 53 regardless of where they came from. They should just put jerseys on there with just numbers and different numbers and just takes the best players that jump off of tape and go off of game tape versus draft position. I think it's great for the Ravens.
Dennis Colossus joining us here from Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Of course, he'll be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5, as he does every week with the SSV on WNST. What's going on over Coons Ford, man? It's now post-Labor Day. Kids are back at school. I hate using the F word, Dennis, but it's almost fall, man.
Let me tell you something, Nestor. We left Labor Day night, 11:30 we left the store. 35 deliveries later, lots of happy customers, lots of trade-ins, lots of work to do. Post-Labor Day now.
And that's more than the barbecue. I saw the barbecue pictures over the weekend. Not everybody's doing that on the weekends.
We had barbecue at noon, and we had pizza at 5 o'clock. So we were eating well as were our customers, and we had people all over the place flying in from all over the country to buy cars from us. We had one guy last night bought 3 vehicles. This was after 9 o'clock. Most of my competitors close at 5 o'clock if they even open, but that's what we do, Nestor. Just like WNST, when they sleep, we grind, they dream, we shine.
Well, yeah, it's the N in Coon stands for never. We never shut down, man. I mean, it's the internet. I mean, you got to be ready to go. You never know when Justin Forsett's going to get, going to get cut. You never know when someone's going to want to walk in and buy a car, which could be 3 o'clock in the morning on your website, right?
Yeah, we're prepared all the time. People say, Dennis, when are you busy? We're always busy. Doesn't matter what the weather is. Doesn't matter what the economy is doing because we're always working. We're always getting referrals, repeat business, people just hitting us up on the web 24/7, and we're very responsive. We bring the people in, and we do what we say we're going to do. The car is there. The price doesn't change. They get top dollar for the trade-in. They get the best interest rate. There's no reason why we don't exchange keys, and 9 times out of 10, we do.
All right, look, man, I don't want to get fresh about this because you and I have talked about Mr. Angelos in the past. I know you're one of the guys who doesn't go to the games, and I'm sure you get offered some free tickets here and again or whatever, and I know you follow the Orioles and you kind of want them to do well, but you're one of those guys that's just not jumping in the car at 4:30, 5 o'clock, buying a couple tickets, hanging out down there, spending $10 on the beers and getting home at 11 o'clock. It's not your thing, but in your circle, you have a lot of employees, you have a lot of people on. What are you hearing and feeling in regard to how Camden Yards could be that empty last week? I don't feel like I run in any one circle. I've got old friends, young friends, black friends, white friends, east side, west side, baseball, football. I watched it from afar. I watch it from downtown. I've seen over 25 years now being on the radio that, you talk about your brand and my brand and how we're proud of our brand. And part of our brand is being a crowded brand and being a growing brand and being a brand people say good things about and hopefully say better things than they've ever said about. Boy, the Orioles have been very good on the field, and they can't seem to catch any buzz. And I've been writing about this, about the emptiness of the stands. And, I get called the hater and I got an axe to grind. Hey, I didn't make the stadium empty. He made it empty. But there is a larger reason and a rationale for why people won't go down there and spend $15 and go to a ball game on a Tuesday night when they're playing a first-place team.
Nestor, I think there's a lot going on. I also think that the Internet, smartphones have changed how we watch sports. Twitter, for instance, you can get up to the minute what's happening, updates at Camden Yards or any ballpark in the U.S. I think how we watch, I think a lot of people watch on their smart devices. We get the clips, we get the sound bites. I think that's going a long way. And I don't know if that's unique to the Orioles or if all major league teams are experiencing this, but probably much more so in Baltimore because there's been a good measure of apathy surrounding this team. But when you can get, I can watch college football and get my WNST updates from you and Luke, and I'm really watching the football game, and I'm also into the baseball game. And I can also break away and look at the highlights at the same time.
Well, they send the highlight. Here's the home run. Boom. It's out on Twitter within, 5 minutes afterwards. You can watch that pitch, on your Twitter feed. So, but there's a part of going to the ballpark that I'm sure you experience with your wife, with your son. I'm sure you got memories out there with friends, loved ones, maybe back when you were a younger guy going with your buddies from the neighborhood or whatever. There was something, and there still is something about going to a ball game that should feel special and should feel like, I say Willy Wonka with the golden ticket. Like anytime my dad piled me on a bus and we went out to 33rd Street, it was the best thing we could be doing that night. Quite frankly, I couldn't think of anywhere else I'd rather be than at the ballpark. That's really not true in 2016 for a lot of people.
I've changed a lot, Nestor. When I was a kid, Eddie Murray and those guys watching them at Memorial Stadium was something special. Earl Weaver, defense, the three-run homer, pitching, all that good stuff. There was a certain vibe. I've lost that vibe, and now, unless you're giving me a suite and a parking pass, I'm not going.
You say that every week.
Yeah, I'm that. Look, I'm consistent. I'm that finicky. Maybe I'm spoiled, but to me, I just can't get into it unless there's some freebies to go along with it. To me, it's more of a social thing versus than a game experience.
Well, Dennis Kolatzis will be here socializing on Thursday from 3 until 5 and driving you home out of Coons Ford Security Boulevard. And, of course, the sponsor of our WNST text service. Dennis, I'm over in Germany, and I'm at Billy Joel. And I told folks, from the beginning of Scenes from an Italian Restaurant to the end, I thought the Ravens had cut half the team. Luke was just blowing my phone up. It was in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday and in the middle of the evening over in Europe, as I know you've spent time over in Europe many times as well. So the WNST text service knows no bounds, no international bounds. Trust me, it was functioning very, very well in Frankfurt, Germany on Saturday.
Hey, that song, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, that's about an 8.5-minute song, so a lot can happen in those 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, Justin Forsett got cut and came back. Before Brenda and Eddie were the popular steadies. Hey, man, it's great having you on. We'll see you on Thursday, and always great to check in with you, man.
Thank you, Nestor. Appreciate it.
He is the SSV on WNST. He is Dennis Kolatzis. You can follow him at Coons Ford Security Boulevard. Of course, one of our great longtime sponsors and friends driving you home on Thursday, getting you ready for the NFL kickoff game and the Panthers and the Broncos, not a Super Bowl rematch, as Cam Newton pointed out. You can find me anytime, anywhere, and the morning newspaper comes to your email inbox via Planet Fitness each and every morning, not to mention our text service, keeping you on your toes. Nasty at WNST.net, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on Facebook Live as well as YouTube on our WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.